This program is sponsored by Dave Stahl.
Air on. Power on.
It's time to take your place on the starting grid and get ready for Racer Radio. Your host, Dave Stahl, about to take you for a white-knuckled lap around the motorsports industry, covering everything from top-notch national drivers and crew chiefs right down to your local kid racers and racetracks. Watch for the apex, because here comes Racer Radio with Dave Stahl.
All right, folks, welcome to Racer Radio, FM 96.1, AM 1170. She's not here to say the answer. Why? Because it's her birthday. So she thinks she's going to go out and play with horses, but that would be Britney, the racing school teacher, so she wasn't able to come in today, but I'm glad she's having a wonderful, wonderful birthday. She's out with family, horses, and good food. Well, Peter, what have you been up to?
I was in England for a month. Supposed to have been 3 weeks, but they closed down Portugal. I was supposed to go to Portugal. They closed that down, so that didn't happen.
So it's worse over there than it is here, would you say?
No, it's just different. I think it's equally over-regulated, and England is particularly bad. I mean, the police are now authorized to give out a ticket if you don't wear a mask, £200 fine, which is about $240.
Whoa.
Then they can do this.
Are they doing it, you think?
Oh, they are.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not all over the country, but they are doing it. The other thing was they have England set up in zones. And if you drive from zone one to the other, there's a chance there might be a roadblock to check you why you're doing that. Why are you traveling?
Wow.
It's different parts of the country have taken it literally as to what the government says you should be doing. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Wow. Well, welcome back to the
freedom.
Freedom, yeah. People need to hear what you just said, because let me tell you, I mean, not every country out there thinks the same way we do. So when you're over in Europe, so I guess now is motorsports still alive and well?
Only British Superbike's doing well. No spectators, but a lot of television.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing very well with revenue from television and sponsors and so on.
Well, really, that's where the majority of the money is.
It's a great series. Yeah. MotoGP is still good and not coming to America next year.
I heard that. What do you think the reasoning for that is?
Well, it's the restrictions of travel. They're not doing South America. Yeah. They're trying to put together something in China, I hear. The Chinese have said, please come to China. So I understand that's possibly on the agenda. But essentially, it's going to be a European World Championship.
Wow.
2 or 3 races in one location, move on to another location, and so on.
Yeah. Well, and if they go to China, which my personal opinion is I wouldn't go since they're the cause of this mess as far as I'm concerned. But can you imagine all the different tracks that they would run that they probably never ran before?
Well, they're not running Australia. They're not running Malaysia, of course, they used to be what they call the Flyaway series. Yeah. That's not going to happen. But if they go back to China,
have they been in China before?
I've been to Taiwan, but not mainland
China.
But I
mean, have they this series?
Yeah,
this series did race there. Okay, all right.
But it's not like Formula One where it's been a regular thing, and but they've been there before. But I think China's opening up a lot more than we are in terms of being open to things. I understand Formula One's going there this next year.
Really?
And but that could change tomorrow. I mean, the way that the governments are treating us, everything could change tomorrow.
Sure. Yeah. Without a shadow.
It's already changed after January the 20th. You can see what's changed.
Oh no. Yeah. I know. He's only been in office a week, and we've already lost 70,000 jobs, and gas prices are going sky high. I mean, it's just, it's hang on, folks. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, strap yourself in.
Yeah, well, I watched, you probably didn't get a chance to watch Supercross last night. I don't know if you're a Supercross fan.
I sometimes watch it, but as you know, I've been down here working on other projects.
Right.
And
not all automotive or motorcycle related.
Well, the other half of my life is I run a foundation. It's called Surviving Prostate Cancer. The foundation is called Healing Arts Education Foundation. And I work a lot with consulting with men that have prostate cancer. I'm a 16-year survivor without surgery, drugs, or radiation. No conventional treatment at all. Mm-hmm. We have a documentary out that was on PBS, and now I have a new book. Mm-hmm. And if people are interested in that side of what I do, the website is called survivingprostatecancer.org. And
well, if you can do it without, because chemo reminds me of bloodletting, back in the day.
Yeah, sure.
Doesn't that kind of that same mentality? It seems like.
Well,
I mean,
cancer isn't caused by a lack of chemotherapy. It's not caused by a lack of radiation.
no, not at all.
And there's other things that can be done, and there's a lot more out there that really works. I guess the main problem is if you believe this current pandemic situation, you'll believe anything. And if you believe anything, you'll believe that there isn't no alternatives to what currently is the norm for cancer.
Right. No, dude, I am right there 100%. If I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. If it doesn't make sense, follow the money.
I'll always follow the money.
Yeah, because if it doesn't make any sense whatsoever, money's in there someplace, somewhere, somehow. Like if they're going to say, well, we're going to close all the deserts, so nobody can go off-roading, nobody can ride a motorcycle in the desert. What are you talking about? What? There's got to be a reason. Oh, I see. You want to build something out there. I get it. And you're paying somebody to shut it down so you can build, whether it be a solar farm or a wind farm or something. But there's always some money involved.
Absolutely. There's no doubt.
I'm surprised you didn't go to Dakar.
What's really funny is, I've got a new podcast, which is what I want to talk to you about on my motorcycle side. But one of the guests I'm trying to get on in the near future is Breivik, who was the winner last year.
Yeah.
Came second this year. And what a great example he's setting for that type of racing.
Right.
I mean, it's brilliant. But the new podcast, which is available through my other website, which is Motostar, MOTOSTARR.com.
Pretty good.
My first season is all American World Champions. And we've got 9 up there right now. We did Freddie Spencer, Brad Lackey, Bruce Penhall, Greg Hancock, Kevin Schwantz, Wayne Rainey, Kenny Roberts, Eddie Lawson. And I've missed one out somewhere. Forgive me.
You did. But I can't think of what it is, but that's okay.
Steve Baker.
There you go.
Baker. That's the 9 we've got up there now. I just interviewed Fred Merkel yesterday.
Oh, did you?
And it'll go up hopefully this coming Wednesday. But what I try to do is, because it's a video podcast, I try to draw from footage that I've got from the many years I spent making motorcycle racing movies to illustrate various points that they talk about.
Right.
And that is what makes these podcasts different from basically the others. There's a real good visual aspect to it.
Yours is kind of like a talking storybook.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And that's because I have to tell you, I read every kind of book imaginable, and I always have to have my phone with me. Because let's say if they bring up a 1972 Moto Guzzi Type 7 and there's no picture in the book, I got to get my phone out. And because I have to know what I'm reading about. I have to look at it. So doing a podcast and then having pictures to go right along with it or video, I think that's a great idea.
Well, we're trying to do that, and we haven't got a sponsor for it yet, but I've done 9 episodes, and we're looking for some serious sponsorship for it. But it's going to, after the first series is over of American World Champions, we're going to open it up to be like a window on the world of motorcycling. I did 3 interviews in the UK while I was there, one with Elspeth Beard, who was the first British woman to ride around the world solo, 1982. She was only 22 years old.
Wow.
And she rode through Iran, Iraq, and Pakistan as a woman, single, on a motorcycle. Wow. That takes some cojones, I tell you.
And she probably didn't ask any permission to go through. She just jumped on her bike and...
times were different in 1982, and
that's
women were not treated well in those countries whatsoever. So anyway, she's one of my guests.
What'd she ride? You remember?
BMW. It's what was then I think it was the RT80 in those days.
Yeah.
It was a kind of she built the bike herself before she went, which is equally amazing. 22-year-old woman doing that in 1982.
No kidding.
So she's an amazing architect today. Terrific lady. I mean, she built her own. She lives in a water tower that she converted from a water tower into a multi-story residence. And I've been there. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. But, and she did all the work herself.
Totally.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. And she's a great architect. I did 2 others there. Michael Scott, who is probably the most prolific writer in motorcycling in terms of books. He wrote the Wayne Rainey book and several other books. And he writes the Motorcourse book edits that. He writes for Cycle News every week. And he and I spent an hour together. And then Nick Harris, who was the voice of motorsports for MotoGP for 28 years, just retired, got a new book. We talked to him.
Well, you should be able to find some kind of sponsorship, I would think.
Well, we're looking at it now. It's we're going global. We've just signed a deal with a young guy who's going to handle my social media, which will help us get a bigger audience.
Gotcha.
But I'm talking to people for the future, like Peter Hickman, who holds the lap record in the Isle of Man, 135 miles an hour, if you can imagine that. I spoke with him. He'll come on. Jonathan Ray's coming on, who's the 6-time world superbike champion. I mean, we're now once we get through the American Champion Series, we're going to open up a lot into a world.
Well, I have always said, and that's what I try to do with radio. I try to find radio, like yourself. It gets you on radio. I've got you on tape. I've got something that you have said that will stay with us for the rest of our lives and the lives in the future. And we don't do that enough, and I think what you're doing is huge, because you're not just picking out 2 or 3 top riders. You're trying to cover a whole history of the sport. So people can go to your podcast and, Moto Starr, Starr, and they can listen to maybe they read a book about a particular rider that they don't know anything about. Well, they can go to your site now and actually watch the video, see a picture of this individual, listen to him talk. I just, somebody out of the clear blue sent me a segment I had done with Marty Smith at KUSI. I actually kind of semi-forgot about it, to be honest with you, but somebody had sent it to me, and it was only 3 to 4 minutes, but it was such a great video. I sent it to his family because they didn't have a copy of it, so now they have something that they can hang on to for future, kids that come up in that family that'll know who their grandfather, great-grandfather, what have you. So you're doing the right thing, and I applaud you for it. But anyway, we got to take a quick break because we're on FM 96.1, AM 1170, The Answer. All right, folks, welcome back to Racer Radio. Brittany, and I hope you and your dad and mom are having a great birthday party out there. I hope you're not all riding that same horse. Hopefully you have more than one horse. All right, hey, we're hanging out here with Peter Starr, and Peter is working on some podcasts. They're kind of like a visual podcast, not your normal podcast where it's just like what you and I are doing now.
Yeah, it is. It has a video component, which we do try to do live. The first series is all American World Champions, and
that's motorcycle, right?
Motorcycles, totally motorcycles. I wouldn't know enough about cars. I'd have to come to you to deal with the cars. But it's when we start to lay them out, I say, well, we can't do a lot because of COVID, so it's all Zoom done. Except Kenny Roberts said, no. He said, I don't do computers. If you want to do this, you're going to have to come down and visit with me.
Okay.
So off we went to where he lives, and it turns out Eddie Lawson lives just around the corner from him, quite literally. So the Eddie Lawson episode and the Kenny Roberts episode were done in person.
That's 2 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah. And it's going to be the same with John Krasinski and Debbie Evans, and we'll probably do those in person as well.
Yeah. Well, you sit across the room. You put a camera up. I mean, you're not going to be hugging each other doing that.
Well, when Roberts has a way about it, the way he talks, particularly to people that you think he likes, and I said to him, Kenny, it's been 50 years since I first filmed you in 1974, and I said, it's been 50 years. I said, who would have thought we'd been sitting down doing this interview now? And he said, not me. He said, I thought I'd have killed you by now. And he'll come out with those kind of things. But that's Kenny.
50 years.
Isn't that amazing?
Dude, that's just insane.
Yeah.
I mean, because, I still think of Kenny Roberts as still, a pretty young a rider.
He's 69, I think, now.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
And he's still got the chutzpah that he's always had.
Yeah.
I mean,
who do we have? Lars Larson in here. He's out running races out at Glen Helen, and was he in his 80s?
Lars Larson. I did a film called The Bad Rock Band in 1973, and Lars was in that film. And I questioned him. He was doing the Bad Rock Enduro, and I said to him, what do you do? Do you carry a snake bite kit on your outfit? He says, you got snakes up here? And his face went totally white.
Oh, he doesn't like snakes. That's a good story. That's a good one. I'm telling you. Well, And so now the podcasts, do they air at a specific time and day?
We try to put them up on YouTube through our website, motorstar.com, to start with 2 hours on a Wednesday night. Well, with my travel schedule this past month, I kind of missed 2 Wednesdays.
Yeah, well, you're not going to do that for a while after what you just went through.
Well, we hope to get Fred Merkel up this coming Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then, depending upon the schedule of Kenny Roberts Jr., he'll be next.
So now, is that Wednesday, what time?
We usually try to get it up by 7:30 in the evening.
Is that Pacific time?
Yeah.
Okay, 7:30 Pacific time at Moto, MOTOSTARR. And you just go to YouTube?
You can go to YouTube we have a Motorstar video channel.
Okay.
And they're all posted up there.
Otherwise, I've not done a podcast yet. I mean, I've done a podcast where I called into it, but I've not physically went to a computer because I have no idea how to find a podcast.
Well, you just go to my website and it's all there.
Okay.
We try to make it as simple as possible.
Good. For all those old guys? Trust me.
Speak for yourself.
50 years ago, I might have figured it out, but I don't know about today. And so what was your reasoning for capturing all these motorcycle riders?
Well, I'll be quite honest. I make my living these days. I mean, I'm not a young guy anymore, and I make my living from giving talks. I travel the country, and I do film nights. I'll do talk shows.
Oh, cool.
And I've got book sales, as you know. We've talked about my books. And all of a sudden, because of the government restrictions in this last year, we've not been able to give talks. I've not been able to do film shows. So all of a sudden, my income went from reasonable to zero.
Yeah.
And I said, where do we go from here?
Yeah, hello.
Now, I'd done a lot of heritage interviews with people like Gary Nixon, Joe Leonard, and people like that. They were active motorcyclists that are now gone. And I've got like 30 some odd of those that are archived.
Oh, wow.
And we've been trying to get a deal with the AMA to make them part of the AMA Hall of Fame.
Sure.
That hasn't happened yet. And I said, well, let's do something else. Let's honor America's world champions. And
right.
It doesn't matter. I've got 2 speedway racers, Brad Lackey, the motocrosser, the rest are road racers. I'm trying to get other people like, Danny Laporte, other motorcyclists. I'm going to do, hopefully, Brebeck because of his Paris-Dakar win.
Mm-hmm.
And so it'll become a window on motorcycling rather than just road racers or motocrossers like I've got now.
So now where are you based at?
Los Angeles.
Okay. Because what I'd like to do is if you could get 1 or 2, just even 1 if that's all you can get, a vintage motorcycle, come to San Diego like on a Friday night or a Saturday night, spend the night, then come to KUSI TV. I'll give you a TV segment that has the largest viewers in San Diego County. And this is a motorcycle mecca down here. As you
Does it
very
have
well
to
know.
be vintage?
Why? Well, you want to bring a brand new one?
No. But I mean, it's...
Well, when I may say vintage, remember, you and I are over 50, so it's anything you and I think about is vintage.
Yeah, that's true.
No, like an old race bike, maybe a Kenny Roberts bike, or, I don't know. Yeah. I'll let you figure that out, because I know you know enough people in San Diego. Heck, Lars Larson's from here, right?
He lives down this way, yeah.
I think he's got a bucket load of...
and Don Emdy's not far from here,
Yeah, so if you're interested in doing that...
Sure.
Send me an email. You have my email.
You bet.
And then because I'm telling you, every time we had a guy that, this is going to sound really crazy, but he needed teeth. And he was called the Highwayman. And he drove a 54 Mercury converted ambulance, looks like a station wagon, up and down, all over the place, flat tires, run out of gas, you name it. He was there, never charged a dime. Did it for I don't know how many hundreds of years, hundreds of thousands of miles. So they said, hey, he needs teeth, and we're trying to raise money. Can we bring him in? I go, well, I don't normally do that on TV, but because it's who he is, sure, let's bring him in. Well, they only had like $6,000, $7,000 in this little GoFundMe. So they came to KUSI, did a little dog and pony show, left, and then he called me that afternoon, and he had $57,000.
Wow. Well, we did.
So that's the kind of
We did the Marty Smith thing, if you remember.
Exactly.
Down there.
But I'm happy to do that again for you, especially with the All-American racers that you're putting on your podcast, and let people know about it. Why not?
Well, somebody has to get this history put down.
Yes.
And that's become the part of my life now. It's almost virtually impossible to make the kind of movie that I would like to make because of the sheer cost of doing it.
Ridiculous. And
so I've decided to make a turn in my life and create these programs to preserve literally in-person talks with the very people that made our very history.
Yeah. No, and you should be honored for that because, it's funny whenever I've got a young driver sitting in front of me or a young motorcycle racer and sitting in front of me and he's like 8, 9, 10 years old, I tell every single one of them, get a diary.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Every night before you go to bed, you fill out 1 or 2 pages of how your day went. Good, bad, ugly, and different. And when you get to be 40, 50 years old, whether you're successful or not, that's either a bestseller book or it's a bestseller movie. Because every one of us have a great story.
Absolutely.
Don't you agree?
I do.
And when you interview these writers, I know you're in awe most of the time as to how they got to where they're at, especially back in the day. I mean, motorcycle technology was ridiculous.
Well, Kenny Roberts said something in the interview I did with him. He said when he started his team, after he won 3 world championships, then he started a team. He said, I had 5 mechanics when I started my team.
Mm-hmm.
When several years later, when he finished, he had 45 mechanics.
Crazy.
That's the difference between the simplicity of racing and where racing has become today, where it's literally cubic dollars these days.
That's amazing. So, last but not least, before we leave prostate, I understand you're doing a program there as well.
Well,
I've a book.
I've got a new book. It's called Prostate Cancer: Why We Get It, What to Do About It. It's full of the pros and cons of conventional treatment and the pros and cons of natural treatment. I chose natural. I'm 16 years a survivor.
Awesome.
And I would recommend that if anybody is faced with anything to do with prostate disease, that they take a look at this book before they make any decisions about their treatment.
How do they find the book?
survivingprostatecancer.org.
Okay, I'll remember that. Buddy, it's always good having you in.
Likewise, it's always good to come
See,
to San
and
Diego.
you were crying because Britney wasn't here.
Oh, God, you saw the tears running down.
Hey,
tears running down my
I
face.
know. You notice I sent you a text that said she wasn't going to be here.
I know, and I didn't believe you.
I know you didn't. Well, she's still out riding her horse. All right, buddy. Good talking to you.